It's about you as a member of the fund, you as a trustee of the fund, any of your close relatives, like grandkids and grandparents and stuff like that, or any company or trust that you might control through your family that's links in with the super fund. It's important because if you make certain investments, then your super fund could get taxed at a higher rate, or you could end up in trouble as a trustee. Well, I think the biggest misconception is if you own something jointly with someone else, like you're in partnership, or you own a property jointly with, say, somebody that's not related to you, that you can be, because of that, you can become a related party. And that creates some difficulties if your self-managed fund or that other person's self-managed fund wants to purchase and invest particular investments. Now, those investments would be usually property or units in a unit trust, or maybe company shares in a private company. So you just need to get advice on that before you go ahead with that type of investment. Well, the most common examples are ones where you might think it's okay to invest in a particular, say a private company, but you don't realise there's a limit to the amount that you can invest. So that limit is no more than 5% of the value of the fund in total. So that for some people, they'll purchase the whole of the investment only to realise that they've exceeded the limit that the super fund can invest in all private companies, for example. The first one is making sure before you go into the investment to check it out with the accountant, to make sure that the type of investment you're doing is going to satisfy what we call the in-house asset rules. And if you own the investment, or one of your family companies or trusts own the investment, whether the super fund can actually acquire that from you or the company or trust. Now, that's the first time. The second time is at the end of each financial year, the accountant for the super fund and also the auditor will check the books to make sure that you comply with those investment requirements. Now, if you don't, then you can have a remediation period to fix it up over the next year. So you've got to put in place a plan, and the auditor and the accountant have got to agree with that so you can fix things up. So that's two times when you do it. That is when you acquire it and at the end of each financial year. Well, in the worst cases, you've only got to have a look at some of the court cases where basically the whole of the self-managed fund has been invested in a private company, and what's happened there, or what can happen, is that the ATO can penalise the trustees. That's the first one. That's probably the light penalty, and it's several thousands of dollars. You could be have your fund taxed at the non-complying rate, which is 45% of the total investments of the super fund, or in the really worst cases, you could be disqualified as a trustee of your own self-managed fund, and I'm sure you don't want that to happen. Oh, my tips for investments which are unusual for your self-managed fund, and I'm not talking there about investing on the stock exchange, but investments in private companies or unit trusts, maybe artworks and collectibles, for example, that before you go ahead with it, I mean, it'll be part of your plan, and then have a talk with your accountant who knows something about self-managed funds and can say, okay, well, maybe shouldn't invest in that because you're going to breach some rules, or maybe you can invest so much in that particular investment and that'll be okay under the rules.